Now, moving on to how you should fill out the chart for the rest of the Presocratics, let's move down to Anaximander, and maybe we'll see if we can get Anaximander and Anaximenes in one video. I think it might go a little bit faster now that you understand. Well, Anaximander, remember, disagreed with Thales about water being the origin. That is, he thought there was a material cause of everything, but it wasn't water, and the reason is it couldn't be water because water was wet and cold, and how could something that's wet and cold produce the opposites of wet and cold, that is, dry and hot? And he thought that the idea that Thales had in looking for a cause of everything was a good one, but he thinks he just identified the wrong thing. So he came up with this idea that the basic thing that everything comes out of has to have all of these opposites of it. It's almost like a milkshake, a cosmic milkshake of opposites. Now notice, and he calls this the unbounded, sometimes the infinite. You could have added infinite in there. And what's interesting about it is he has a theoretical entity. So it's really the beginning of science over here, using theoretical entities for things. And in addition to which, the other thing that's significant about it is that this is the time when he's taking issue with Thales. Maybe you would put that, he's taking issue with Thales, and unlike what happened with the epic poets, Homer and Hesiod, the fact that he has an objection is something that Thales and the community in general has to take seriously, unlike an objection to the gods. So that's how you fill it out for Anaximander. Obviously, the same thing on epistemology. We haven't changed. He too looks like he's an empiricist, basing things on observation. But notice I put that in as ontology. That's what everything is made of. It's made up of the unbounded. I guess I could have put a comment about cosmology also. And by the way, you could put more than what I did. I'm just trying to show you the basics of what you could put in to get an answer, to understand what's going on. Now, turning quickly to Anaximenes, remember Anaximenes was the air guy, as everything that exists was made of air. He thought Anaximander, that is, I guess he never had a glass of unbounded. Maybe he had a glass of water, but what he thought was that it's got to be some existing element that's the basic thing. So he thought it was air. And then he says the other thing Anaximander didn't do is, how did these opposites, even if they were all in this unbounded, how did one of them dominate and the other one, kind of close itself down to get water as opposed to land, or vice versa? So what he talks about is a process, and he says, well, the reason he likes air is most like a theory, even though it's an existing thing, it's most like a theoretical entity. And air, we see, according to him, he has this process of transformation. That is, air gets compressed, and it compresses, becomes wind, it becomes rain, water, it becomes earth, stone, that is dirt, and then it gets compressed even more and it becomes stone. And as you expand them, they go out in the opposite order, and even if you go past expand air, you get fire. People breathe on it. So that's the idea, is we have this process of compression and spreading out, sometimes called a fancy word rarefication. So that's what his view on ontology is. So in this particular cell, you were supposed to capture that information.